Hi and welcome to Northern Kiwi. This video tutorial is going to show you how to set up a Pac-Man-esque style game using Scratch. Obviously it's not going to deal with a lot of the more complex AI, and even some of the pathfinding is going to be very rudimentary, nice and simple, but it will show the sort of basics that cover a large number of sort of concepts such as player movement, collision detection with walls and enemies, and also the concept of lives and a score. So we're using a bunch of different techniques and also some variables. Now, the first thing I'm going to actually do is shrink my little sprite dude. Just going to get into my costume 1 and just shrink him down. I'm actually only going to have one costume for this guy. I'm not going to worry about any animations. So I've got a nice small player character. And now on my stage 1, my backdrop is what I'm going to draw is a background. So what we're going to do is Pac-Man game. We're going to have a nice black background. Make sure that fills the whole thing. Yep. And I'm going to keep this fairly simple. I'm just going to use a bit of a purple. Just to draw the shapes. Okay, this is going to be, kept fairly sort of simple. Just a bunch of little rectangles spread all around. The page, just to keep a nice simple idea. Obviously if I was going to do this in a much more detailed way, what I would have is, I'd look at the sizes of everything, match them all up. But I'm really just wanting a little maze that my characters can sort of jump around. Okay, so I've drawn my basic level 1 maze. Now, what we need to do is get our main game character moving around it. I'm going to push and move into a start position. I'm going to have him start down the bottom. And on our scripts, the first thing I want to do is get him so he's always appearing at this position. So I'm going to, when the game starts, go to Control, and what I want him then to do is basically move to that position. So I'm going to go Motion, go to X minus 2, minus 146. When you drag this one in, it should take the position of that sprite at its current location. So if you see, if I move him around now, the X and Y positions have changed. So now if I click play, he's going back to where he was before. Okay, we've got that. Now we need to get him moving. So we're going to do some more events. This is going to be dealing with key presses. So I need left, right, up and down. So we're going to hook those up, down, up, and right. And motion. Motion's always to do with moving. Now, if we're having him following a direction, we could use the move steps, but because I'm going to have him moving on an X and Y axis only, I need to basically do a change X by. But if I do my 10, that's probably a little bit too quick. So I'm going to just have him move at speed 5. But moving by +5 for the left arrow is not what we want, because if you think about a maths, you've got positive axes, positives, negatives, positives, negatives. So I need to move by -5. And much the same with that one. And then for the other variables, we need to change it. So down is by -5, change it by 5, and 5. So now I should have my character moving around. But we still have one problem. He can actually walk through the walls. What we really need to do is stop him doing that. So what we're going to do is we want him to always be checking this. So we've got him sort of checking it but we only want it to happen each time we press the key. So I want each time, so let's say in this example, if I press the left arrow, and then here, if he is touching a color, I'm going to click on the little purple and make sure we get the right purple. So if he's touching purple, then I want him to basically move in the opposite direction. So I'm going to get him to move X by +5 in this case. But I'm going to reuse this bit of code. So I'm going to just duplicate that bit and snap it on. And once more. So I've now got it available for all the options. Back to my motion. I could copy these, but I find it's often a little bit quicker just to drag them across. And the changing Y's. And we're going to do the opposite. So this one's change X by -5. This one's going to be +5. This one's change X by there, -5. And change Y by +5. So it's always the opposite of what we do. So now if I play it, if I hit the wall, he sort of stops moving. So I've got my player moving around the page in the game. Okay, but we've got him moving, it's a simple maze, a little bit sort of boring at this point. We need to get some points in there, so let's just add in some new sprites and get some things. I think in apple will be a good start, but the apple's too big. So let's shrink it all the way down. Maybe not quite that much. Okay, so I've got my apple on here. And now what I want to have happen is when he moves over the apple, basically it is going to disappear. So now I need some more events. I want it to forever, so always check. So we're going round and round in a loop, a bit more control. If it is touching sprite 1, so it's touching the player, I want it to disappear. But what I also want it to do, each time I start the game, I want it to reappear, so I've got to add that show in. So I'm going to go around, check it, okay, good, so it's disappeared, and when I press play again, it starts up again. But I'm not getting any points, so what I need to do now is add in a variable to store some information. I'm going to make this variable, and we're going to call it score. And what we want, we're going to link it up with the player, and each time we start the game, we're going to set the score to 0, so it's going to reset. And now with the apple, each time I touch it, I want it to the score to go up by 1. So now if we play, our score is increased. Okay, so I could now make some other fruit to basically add in as options. I'm just going to keep it simple for this one and sort of just duplicate my fruit and place it in different places around. What I can also do is give these different scores so that depending on which piece of fruit we get, they have a different point score. So you see that piece in the top right corner is worth 2 points. Okay, so we've got our basic sort of game going on here. What we now might want to do is, like we've done before, is basically when we get a certain score, go to the next level. Okay, so if we don't want to go to the next level, we could go to wherever or get some code to do what else we want. In this example, we're actually going to not worry about going to another page at this point. If you want to have a look at how to get it to go to a new backdrop, have a look at Scratch Variables 1 on the Northern Kiwi YouTube site. What we are going to look at is adding in enemies, and when an enemy basically kills us, resetting the game and losing a life. So what we need to first do is go and add in another piece of data. We're going to make a new variable and we're going to call it lives. Okay, and our first player, we need to start with some lives. We're going to give them 3 lives to start with. So each time they start, they're at score 0, lives 3. Excellent, which is what we want. Now we need to add in an enemy. What we're going to have is, we're going to keep this enemy pretty stupid to start with, but you can look at adding in your own AI as you want. Okay, we've got a cat as our main character, so let's find a dog. Okay, dog 2. Okay, he's a little bit big. We need to make him a bit small so he can move around. Also, I could add in all these animations, but I'm just going to leave those out for now. Going to keep it nice and small. Okay, we've got our dog. Maybe a little bit smaller so he can make sure he gets around. So otherwise, it need to make sure he fits through all the gaps. Good. Cool. That's nothing you need to keep in mind with your game, is to make sure that your dog can actually, and the shapes can actually move around. So what we're going to do is get him moving. So events, when the game starts, we want him to move. And he's going to be always in this loop. So he wants to always be doing this. And we need to basically get him to randomly choose some direction. Okay, and what we want here is, first up, we want to make sure we've got the little guy in the right position. So we've got our character right off to start with, and we need to basically tell him to randomly choose a direction to move at in the first place. Now, what we do have is, some events which we can work on. Operators to pick a random number, which is pretty good. But we don't have anywhere to store his direction. So we actually need to make a variable. Let's call this direction. And when we start the game, we're going to set it to be a direction. But we want it in our event. No, where was it? Control, sensing, operators, pick a random. Even though it's a circle-y shape, we can actually drag it onto there. And we've only got 4 directions we can actually move in, so we need to pick one between 4. Now, forever, this is where we need to get the moving occurring. It's actually going to be a little bit similar to what we have here. So we need our control. I'm going to make one of these sort of by itself, and then it's going to be a simple case of replicating it. So, first steps. If our direction is equal to 1, we're going to move in one direction. If it was 2, another direction, 3, another direction, 4, the final direction. So we've gone and checked one of them. So if it is that, we need to move him. So let's just do that in this case. So x by 5, good. Then we need to check to see if he's actually hitting the wall. If it's hitting the wall, so if it's touch and color, purple, then we need to move him back. Okay, so what this will do is if it's 1, he's going to go in one direction, and then if he touches a color, he's going to basically stop. What we also want to have happen is if he touches a color, we need to get him to choose another direction. So I'm just going to duplicate that set direction so it can choose a different direction to go in. Now this is our core of what we're going to use. I'm going to duplicate that there. Except this time this is going to be option 2, and it's going to be -5 and +5. So this should just get him, moving left and right. Now I need to modify it for the Y values, which is just our changing of all these X options changing all those out. A little bit annoying the way some of these things sort of snap. So what I'm going to do is let's just take that whole section out. Now I've got one of them that works, and I'm just going to duplicate that whole chunk. So change y by 5, minus 5, 5, minus 5. Not the nicest code all the way through here, but it works. So we're going to let him play, have his go. Okay, it's a little, can be a little bit temperamental here because it's such a big area to start with. Come on, pick a 3. Okay, why is that not working? Ah, because I have not coded it properly. A little bit of debugging. I've got 2 plus 5s. So let's do a minus 5 and a plus 5, and now hopefully this guy will eventually move down. There we go. And we've got a problem with my grid here. It's not quite wide enough, so we can't move through. So let's go and edit that. So we can actually move his way through here. And I just need to use my paint bucket, fill that section in. So now I should actually be able to move through those different areas. Okay, so I've got my little guy moving around. He's able to play. Oh, where's my character 1 going? Ah, I set him into a hidden before. So let's, yeah, there we go. There he is. We'll just show him. Okay, so now we've got my player moving around. I've got my lives added in. Added that variable, lives, 3 lives, which we now need each time I hit that, come into contact with the dog, I need 1 life to disappear. So I'm going to do that on sprite 1. That's where it's going to handle it. I'm going to add another event, so when the game is running, I'm going to do another forever, so a for loop, if it's touching it. So I'm going to use touching drop down, and this time I'm going to select dog 2. So if it's touching dog 2, I want not to change direction by 1, but to change lives by -1. So that will go down. And what I also want to have happen is to basically go to a game over page if it is the end of the game. So I'm going to basically make a new backdrop, and let's call this game over. Okay, now what we also notice here is that by default we can't see anything, so I need to make sure on my looks I need to always switch it to backdrop 1 every time I restart the game. Okay, see, score's gone down, but it's gone down heaps. Don't want that to happen, I only want it to go down 1. So I need to do a bit more work on this. So changing lives by -1, yeah, so that's working. What I want to do is actually reset my character. So I actually want to duplicate that little line here, so that each time he dies, he gets put back in that position. So now if we play it, just wait till he gets in a different place. See, he's gone back to the start. Okay, still going down too much. What we now need to do is modify our score. Let's go control. So if our lives are basically less than 0, actually less than 1, because we can't have it a 0th life. You could always do an equal to 0, but I'm just going to use this one as an example. These are things you should play around with and test yourself. Okay, so if it slides at less than 1, then I want to go to backdrop 2. And I also want to stop everything. So basically finish the entire game. So, okay, so now we're on that position. It's game over. Obviously I could go through and add an extra script to go and hide all of these, but I'm going to leave that out. What we have, nice little game, bunch of different variables, play around with it, add in your own levels. Hope you've enjoyed this. Leave comments below if you find it useful. Enjoy Scratch!